So last week, in order to start the teachings of Lord Kapila, we briefly went through the summary of entire Bhagavad Gita. Not exactly entire Bhagavad Gita, but the principal topics of Bhagavad Gita. And we'll try to see in comparison to Bhagavad Gita, how the same topics of Bhagavad Gita are explained in teachings of Lord Kapila section of Bhagavatam in an elaborate way. So that is the whole idea. And today we'll be discussing chapter 25, the glories of devotional service. So before that, we'll just start with the. So in our discussion for this section of teachings of Lord Kapila, we'll be using slides made by slides made by His Grace Balram Shakti Prabhu. So during our Vidyapit, Balram Shakti Prabhu taught us this section of Srimad Bhagavatam, third canto. So he used some slides. So we have got those slides and I kind of little bit modified here and there. And we'll be using the same slides in order to go ahead in our discussions. So in a quick summary, the entire teachings of Lord Kapila, you can see in this slide. Each chapter is specifically talking about one particular sadhana. Chapter 25 talks about Bhakti Yoga. We will be seeing it elaborately today and next week also. And 26 talks about Sankhya Yoga or Jnana Yoga. 27 talks about Tapasya and Vairagya. 28 talks about Ashtanga Yoga. 29th talks about Bhakti Yoga. And at the end, a small section talks about power of Kala, power of time. And chapter 30, 31, 32 talks about the samsara of the living entity in this material world in three different modes. So chapter 30 talks about person in ignorance, 31 talks about person in passion, 32 talks about person in goodness. So these three people in a way practicing karma. Karma in ignorance is called vikarma. Karma in passion is called vikarma and sakama karma. Karma in goodness is called sakama karma and nishkama karma. It's like that based on the intention of the person, it gets identity. And our last chapter, Mother Devoti offers her gratitude to Lord Kapila. She offers some prayers. Then the attainment of perfection of Mother Devoti is described. And then further activities of Lord Kapila are also kind of presented in the 33rd chapter. So this is like brief synopsis of the entire section. So today we'll be discussing chapter 25, Bhakti Yoga. So before going further, whenever we hear the name of Kapila, we get the idea that Kapila spoke about Sankhya Yoga. There are some notes what exactly this Sankhya means. So Sankhya deals with the elemental categories or principles of the physical universe. Sankhya is what Western scholars generally refer to as metaphysics. Can anyone tell me what is metaphysics? What is the branch of metaphysics in our universities? What they study actually? Metaphysics is basically studying about the nature and the world. So what are the different ingredients that are there in the nature, in the material nature in the world? So that is what they study. And they kind of distinguish them like solids, liquids, gases, like these different divisions they make. And then beyond these three, they talk about light, radiation, etc., etc. Like the 3-4 states, they divide the entire universe into and then they describe. That is what is metaphysics. So Sankhya, from the spiritual point of view, is studying about the nature and different distinction of this material world. The term Sankhya literally means to count. This name is used because Sankhya philosophy enumerates principles of cosmic evolution by rational analysis. The etymological meaning of the word Sankhya is that which explains very lucidly by analysis of material elements. So just like modern science talks about this material world and material nature has been divided into 3-4 divisions like solid state elements, liquid state element, gaseous state elements, and also the light the radiation, light, etc. So that's how they kind of divide them and then talk about it. So, but when it comes to Bhagavatam, Vedic literature, they divide the material world into 24 material elements, starting with earth, water, fire, ether, etc., all the way up to Mahatattva. So, proper understanding of these 24 elements will give proper understanding of what is material world. So, that is the function of Sankhya. That is the purpose of Sankhya. Philosophically, this term Sankhya is used because the Sankhya system expounds analytical knowledge that enables one to distinguish between matter and spirit. So basically, Sankhya is that knowledge, that process of knowledge which helps us to understand what is matter, what is spirit. The whole purpose of Sankhya is to help us understand what is matter and what is spirit. If we remember, Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verse number 16 to 30, about 15 verses, Lord Krishna specifically talks about the distinction between the body and the soul. That is called Sankhya there. So as we go into more details, body we can call it as matter. That body is made up of, or the matter is made up of 24 material elements. The detailed analysis of the characteristics and functions and the nature of these 24 elements is called Sankhya. The 24 elements, as we read in a second canto and also in the third canto in the initial portion, the 5 Panchamahabhutas and their 5 properties, which are known as 5 Tanmatras, 5 Jnanendriyas, 5 Karmendriyas, and 4 Antakaranas. So these are the 24 elements. Studying about them is nothing but the study of matter. And then the source of all these 24 elements is Pradhana, that is 25th element. And this Pradhana is instigated by Lord's energy, known as time. And then Lord's marginal energy, Atma, and Lord himself, Paramatma. So like that, 24 plus 4, the complete study of understanding of these 28 elements is Bhagavad Sankhya. But there is another Sankhya known as atheistic Sankhya, which Prabhupada quotes in the Bhagavad Gita section. The atheistic Sankhya deals with matter and Atma alone. It does not talk about Paramatma. Rather, it does not include Paramatma. The atheistic Sankhya ends with Atma alone. For atheistic Sankhya, Atma is all in all, Atma is ultimate end. They don't have any understanding of Paramatma in their study. That's why Acharyas call that as atheistic Sankhya, because there is no inclusion, there is no understanding of the Paramatma or the Supreme Lord. So that is the distinction. This understanding culminates in Bhakti, the understanding of the detailed nature, characteristics and functions of the 28 elements. It culminates in Bhakti, devotion for and service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It may be said, therefore, that Sankhya and Bhakti form 2 aspects of the same process, Bhakti being the ultimate goal or ultimate aspect of Sankhya. The purpose of studying Sankhya, especially Bhagavad Sankhya, and understanding that Sankhya should bring one to Bhakti. If the devotees are studying Sankhya, it should bring them to the practice of Bhakti seriously. If the practitioners of Jnana or Yoga or Karma are practicing Sankhya or studying Sankhya, it should bring them to the understanding of the Supreme Lord's another features like Brahman, Paramatma and Bhagavan. So it's like that. That is the purpose of Sankhya. So there is a reference from Bhagavad Gita. We see in the 3rd chapter at the very beginning, Arjuna asks, after hearing the entire 2nd chapter, he says that at some time you tell me to take part in the battle, at other time you tell me that knowledge is superior to karma. So what exactly, what is the difference between those two? So like that, Arjuna asks a question. So for which Lord Krishna says, Lokesmin Dvivida Nishtra Pura Prokta Mayanaga Jnana Yogena Samkhyanam Karma Yogena Yoginam. I have spoken in the last chapter of 2 types of qualification for people of this world. Those qualified for Jnana are known as practitioners of Jnana Yoga, and those qualified for Nishkama karma are known as practitioners of karma. So there basically Lord Krishna was talking about in the second chapter, those who are in household order, they are qualified to practice karma yoga. Those who are in the renounced order like Vanaprastha or Sannyasa, they are qualified to practice Jnana yoga. One aspect of Jnana yoga is Sankhya, studying about the nature, qualities and activities of the matter and spirit. The distinction between matter and spirit. That is basically study and understanding of the 28 elements. So that is called Jnana Yoga. So Sankhya is nothing but Jnana Yoga. And those who want to purify their heart by the practice of various household rituals, etc., they are called Karma Yoga practitioners. So that is how Bhagavad Gita chapter 3 indicates. Both of the goal of both the process is ultimately come to attain perfection. The word Samkhya here in this, as per this verse, the word Samkhya refers to Jnana or knowledge and further indicates the person who possesses Samkhya. Samkhya Nam, the word you mentioned in the verse, that indicates those people who possesses Sankhya, proper understanding of the 28 elements. The steadiness of such jnanis by the process of Jnana Yoga has been mentioned in the second chapter starting with Prajahati Yadakaman. So after Arjuna asked the question that I would like to understand what is the nature of that Sthita Prajna. Sthita Prajnasya kya vasha samadhistasya keshava sthir kim prabhaseta kimasita vrajeta kim. So after hearing that question, basically, how do I understand that a person has reached Jivan Mukta platform? So can you tell me his qualities? So Lord Krishna talks about the internal and external qualities of a Jivan Mukta person or Sthita Prajna person. So that is mentioned here. So this person is Sankhya perfected, basically. Those who perfected Sankhya, they will be known as Sthita Prajna or Siddhadir Muni, as it is mentioned here. That Jnana is yoga. Yoga means that process by which a person is joined with Atma, Yujyate. The process in this case is knowledge. Basically, it is called Jnana Yoga. The meaning of Jnana and Yoga both is indicated here in this verse. So Yoga is linking process, the linking between Atma and Paramatma and realization of the Atma. And Jnana is understanding of 28 elements. That is Sankhya. So that is how it is. Further, Lord Krishna mentions in the 5th chapter, Sankhya Yogo Prutak Bala Pravadantina Pandita Ekam Api Astita Samyak Ubayor Vindate Phalam. So again, after hearing Karma Yoga in the 3rd chapter and Jnana Yoga in the 4th chapter, Arjuna again asks, so you elaborately talked about Karma Yoga and told me to perform Nishkama Karma. And you elaborately talked about Jnana Yoga, the superior position of Jnana Yoga or Karma Yoga. And at the end, you again tell me to take part in the war. So what should I do? Karma Yoga or Jnana Yoga? Which is better for me, whether I should fight or go to forest? So for which Lord Krishna said that there is no difference between those two. Though they seems to be different, but ultimately both of them are aimed for same goal. So that is what is indicated here. Sankhya Yoga Prutak Bala Pravadanti na Pandita Ekamapi Astita Samyak Ubayor Vindate Phalam. Only the ignorant speak of devotional service as being different from analytical study of the material world. Those who are actually learned say that he who applies himself well to one of these paths achieve the same result of both. So basically there Lord Krishna says that the purpose of practicing one of these two paths is ultimately go back to Godhead. So in that way there is no difference. He further continues, Yasyankai prapyate sthanam tad yogairapi gamyate ekam sankyam cha yogam cha ya pashyati sapashyati. One who knows that the position reached by means of analytical study can also be attained by devotional service, and who therefore sees analytical study and devotional service to be on the same level, sees things as they are. So basically one who understands that ultimately the end goal of these two processes is the purification of the heart, realization of the self, and attainment of the super self. Then there is no confusion. Though the process may seems to be different, but ultimately the end goal is same. That's why both can be considered to be same. That is how Lord Krishna further continues in that chapter 5 of Bhagavad Gita. So in the previous chapter, the purpose of Lord Krishna's appearance has been kind of indicated. So where when Lord Kapila took birth through the womb of the Devahuti, and before leaving from home, Kardama secretly approaches Lord Kapila one day. Of course, the next day itself. So upon approaching him, he offers so many words of glorification. So this is one of those verses. So wherein Kardama says that long back you told that you will appear in my home as my son. So you have fulfilled your word. So that is what is indicated here. Swiyam vakyam mritam kartum avatirnosi me grihe chikirshur bhagavan jnanam bhaktanam manavardhana. This is the purpose of your appearance. Of course, there are many purposes, but this is one of the purpose. Okay. You, the Supreme Lord, desiring to give you a method of knowledge and increasing the honor of the devotees, have descended in my house to make your words true. Sviyam vakyam rutam kartum. In order to make your words that you will appear as my son in my home true, avatirnosi me grihe, you appeared in my home. And also, what is the other purpose of your appearance? Chikirshur Bhagavan Jnanam. In order to disseminate the process of understanding the knowledge of Bhagavan, the understanding about Bhagavan, and the process of going back to Godhead. Chikirshur Bhagavan Jnanam. And also to increase the Bhaktana Manavardhana, to increase the honor of devotees. So these are your three purposes. In order to make your words true, you appeared in my home. In order to preach the process back to Godhead, that is basically Sankhya Yoga and Bhakti Yoga, you appeared in my home. And in order to increase the honor of the devotees, because by practicing the path presented by you, the devotees are qualified to go back to Godhead. They will be glorified in this world. Sviyam vakyam rutam kartum. Okay, this we discussed. And then it is further said, Matra adhyatmikim vidyam samanim sarva karmanam vitarishyeya chaso bhayam chatirishyati. Then, while giving permission to his own father, Kardama Muni, Lord Kapila speaks various instructions. In one verse, it talks about his appearance also. I will give to my mother spiritual knowledge. Matra adhyatmikim vidyam. So my dear father, do not worry that you are going to forest and your wife will be left alone. Not like that. I will take care of her thoroughly. So I will teach her adhyatmika vidya, which ends all karmas. Basically, which ends all the reactions to all karmas, by which she will also attain fearfulness. So Kardama Muni also going to forest that in order to attain fearlessness, Lord Kapila already blessed him. So my dear father, do like this, you will attain fearlessness in no time. And by staying at home, I will teach my mother Adhyatmika Vidya, understanding which she will also attain fearlessness, which she also requested Kardama Muni when Kardama Muni was about to leave home after begetting 9 daughters. So the purpose of practicing any spiritual path is to get Abhayam. So that is the whole purpose. Jnana Vijnana Yogena Karmanam Uddharam Jata Esha Manavite Garbham Pravishta Kaita Bardhana Avidya Samshaya Grantim Chitvagam Vicharishyati. So this is a verse spoken by Lord Brahma. Understanding that the Supreme Lord entered in his Namsha portion within the womb of Devahuti, Lord Brahma immediately comes along with his sons, Narada Muni, the four Kumaras, and other Manasaputras, all the other great sages, Vasishta, Pulaha, Prutu, Pulaha, Kratu, etc., all those people. He brings all of them to the ashram of Kardama Muni. So there Lord Brahma talks about the glories of Lord Kapila, wherein he says that, O daughter of Manu, while addressing Devahuti, Lord Brahma is speaking. In order to uproot karma by the methods of Jnana and Vijnana, this Lord, killer of demon Kaitaba, entering your womb, will travel over the world, cutting the knot of ignorance and false knowledge. The Supreme Lord, in his partial manifestation, had entered into your womb. He had two missions. One is to cut the knot within your heart, which you asked for from your husband. That will be done by your son, the Supreme Lord. And also, the same Lord will travel all over the world, disseminating the same knowledge to each and everyone for their benefit. So, what knowledge you will speak? Jnana Vijnana Yoga. Jnana Yoga and Vijnana Yoga. What Jnana means? Jnana means knowledge of God without form. Jnana means that knowledge, that Jnana process or Ashtanga Yoga process, following which basically Jnanam includes Nishkama Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, following which one attains Sayujya Mukti. One understands about Brahman and attains Sayujya Mukti. And Vijnanam means knowledge of God with form. Vijnanam is basically Bhakti Yoga, practicing which or following which one attains Vaikuntha. So these are the two bona fide paths that are presented in Bhagavad Gita that will be presented by Lord Kapila also here in Srimad Bhagavatam 3rd Canto. Jnanam includes Nishkama Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, which gives one the knowledge of Brahman and Sayujya Mukti. Vijnanam indicates Bhakti Yoga, which gives the knowledge of Bhagavan, which takes one to Vaikuntha. So in that way. By these methods, he will travel the earth to uproot the roots of Vasana and Karma. Whatever Karma Vasanas the people of this world have, because of which the people of this world are bound, they will be uprooted by the paths presented by Lord Kapila. He will cut the knot in the heart made of ignorance concerning one's Swarupa. So by practicing the path presented by Lord Kapila, one can cut the knot of ignorance that is there in the heart. Vidyate Hridaya Granthi Chidyante Sarva Samshaya, as it is mentioned in the 1st Canto, 2nd chapter. And false knowledge. Whatever ignorance about one's Swarupa and whatever false understanding of one's Swarupa, Samshaya, Avidya and Samshaya will be uprooted and one will get proper understanding of Bhagavan for devotees and proper understanding of Brahman for Jnanis, by which they attain perfection. So that is being taught by Lord Kapila. So this is like brief introduction about how and when and where Lord Kapila began to speak this particular teachings unto his mother. So basically, when Kardama Muni having begotten 9 daughters, and also Lord Kapila having married his 9 daughters with the 9 sons of Lord Brahma, the 9 Manasaputra sons of Lord Brahma, having sent them farewell to their respective in-law houses, and then understanding that Lord Kapila is grown enough to take care of his mother, and taking permission from Lord Kapila, Kardama Muni went to forest. Then this subject matter begins one day. So chapter 25, chapter entitled as the glories of devotional service, wherein Lord Kapila teaches about Bhakti unto Mother Devahuti. Herein, Lord Kapila speaks about Bhakti, its qualities, its power, and its excellence. These are the various things that Lord Kapila talks about in this chapter. This whole chapter talks about Bhakti Yoga. So text 1. So here Shaunaka the Rishi is asking Suta Goswami, please tell me what happened next. After Kardama Muni went to forest and then having gone to forest, what happened in the ashram at Bindu Sarovar? Shaunaka uvacha Kapilastatva Sankyata Bhagavan Atma Mayaya Jata Swayam Ajas Sakshat Atma Prajnaptaye Nranam. Someone can read the translation?
Shri Saunaka said,
command over the language because some of the sentences are very flat.
Hare Krishna. Mataji, continue.
Shri Shaunaka said, although he is unborn, the Supreme Personality of Godhead took birth as Kapila Muni by his internal potency. He descended to disseminate transcendental knowledge for the benefit of the whole human race.
So, having stated the mission of Lord Kapila, they are going to request about his activities. How did he do all those things? That is the indicated here. Kapilas Tattva Sankyata Bhagavan Atma Mayaya Jata Swayam Ajas Sakshat Atma Prajnaptaye Nranam. So he talks about the Supreme Lord Kapila, Bhagavan Kapila, unborn with actually Aja. He is not like he is not born like all of us who are born by the being forced by karma. The Supreme Lord, whenever he want to appear, he appears on his own sweet will. He is not forced by karma. And what is the function of Lord Kapila? Tattva Sankyata. He enumerated the elements and he appeared by his own energy, Atma Maya, Jata Swayam, to give spiritual knowledge to mankind. Atma Prajnaptaye Nranam. So basically, Lord Kapila appeared on his own by his own internal potency in order to preach Sankhya Yoga, Tattva Sankyata. For what purpose? Atma Prajnaptaye Nranam. In order to help the conditioned souls to understand the nature of Atma and the nature of those things which are not Atma. In order to help us understand the distinction between matter and spirit, Lord Kapila appeared and preached Sankhya Yoga, Tattva Sankhya. Tattva basically the understanding about different elements, different tattvas. So that is how it is indicated here in this chapter. Tattva basically the understanding about the 24 elements or 28 elements in truth, in proper way. So basically in these next 2-3 verses, they actually say that we are very eager to hear about the activities of Lord Kapila Dev, because we know that he spoke the Sankhya philosophy that is mentioned in this verse, and he appeared by his own energy to give spiritual knowledge. His appearance is different to that of our appearance, and he is greatest among the great, which is mentioned in the next verse. He is foremost among the yogis. All the other qualities are mentioned in the next verse. Nahi asya varshmana pumsham varimna sarva yoginam vishrutau srutadevasya bruhit rupyati me sava.
Shaunaka continued, there is no one who knows more than the Lord himself. No one is more worshipable or more mature a yogi than he. He is therefore the master of the Vedas, and to hear about him always is the actual pleasure of the senses.
Yeah. So hearing about him is not an ordinary thing. It is actually an honor. So he is not an ordinary person. He is Varishna Pumsham. He is best among all the living entities. And Varimna Sarva Yoginam. He is also not only best among the human beings, he is best among the perfected human beings of the yogis also. So because of that, we want to hear about him more and more. We want to hear about all his activities and the purpose of his appearance, everything we want to know. Because I delight in hearing, my senses can never be fully satisfied with topics about the form of Kapila. Greatest among the great persons such as Purushavasaras, Varishna Pumsham, is greatest among the great avatars such as Purushavasaras and Lila Avataras, and the great yogis is greatest among the great yogis such as Dattatreya. Varimna Sarvayoginam. So in that way. So he is not an ordinary person. Therefore, we would like to hear about him. So please talk about this great personality, Lord Kapila. And they further tell few more attributes of Lord Kapila. Yad yad vidatte Bhagavan Swachandatmatma Mayaya Tanime Shraddha Danasya Kirtanyani Anukirtaya.
Therefore, please precisely describe all the activities and pastimes of the personality of Godhead, who is full of self-desire and who assumes all these activities by his internal potency.
So, yadyad vidatte Bhagavan Swachandatmatma Mayaya Tanime Shraddha Danasya Kirtanyani Anu Kirtaya. Basically, more than that, we are completely faithful unto you. We would like to hear about him more and more. Please describe to me Anu Kirtaya continuously. We are full of faith, Shraddha Danasya. All of the activities of the Supreme Lord Kapila, which are worthy of glorification, which the independent Lord performs by his internal energy. Yadyad vidatte Swachandatma Bhagavan Atma Maya. These activities of Lord Kapila are not the material activities of any other conditioned soul. Since he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, since he appears on his own will, and whatever activities he performed, they also performed on his own will. So, we would like to hear about all his activities in detail. Please elaborate those activities in detail. So, this kind of eagerness all of us should also have, as it is indicated by Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo veti tatvatah taktva deha punarjanma naiti mameti. So, Arjuna. So, when we are eager to hear about Lord Krishna's or any other avatar of the Lord Krishna, about their transcendental birth and transcendental activities. So when we have complete faith in those topics, and with that faith, when we eagerly hear from the mouth of a bona fide acharya coming in the line of disciplic succession, we will be freed from all material attraction and any material attraction and aversion, and we become qualified to go back to Godhead. So that is one of the important aspect of continuously hearing or reading Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita or any Vedic or spiritual literature. The only purpose is to express our eagerness to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead and serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Those two things. As Lord Krishna indicates in Bhagavad Gita chapter 10, verse number 8. Anyone can tell me what is the verse? Chapter 10, verse number 8. Chatusloki Bhagavad Gita, first verse.
Hare Krishna, Aham Sar.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Aham Sarvasya Prabha Matta Sarvam Pravate Iti Matva Vajante Mam Buddha Bhava Samanvita.
Yeah. There Lord Krishna says that Aham Sarvasya Prabhu. I am the source of everything that is there both in the spiritual world and in the material world. And especially in relation to material world, Mattam Sarvam Pravartate. By my presence as Paramatma, the entire material world is functioning as it is functioning now. I am present as Paramatma in the entire universe as Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. I am present as Paramatma in each and every living entity as Kshirodakshaya Vishnu. And because of my presence, all the activities that are happening in this world are happening. Because of my presence or because of my appearance time and again in the form of various avatars, Dharma is being protected and people are able to live in a sane and prosperous condition. It is only by my presence everything is happening in this material world. Mayadhyakshena prakriti suyate sa characharam. It is under my supervision. Everything in relation to every object and every living unit in the material world is happening. And one who understands this, that Lord is the source of everything, and Lord is the person behind all the activities that are happening in this material world. When we know this aspect, and this functionalities of the Supreme Lord, Lord Krishna says, Iti matva, having understood me in this way, bhajanti mam, one engages in my devotional service. How one engages in the devotional service of the Supreme Lord? Sarva bhavena bharata. With all considerations, matlab, one does not perform bhakti, okay, as one another activity, not like that. Sarva bhavena means manasa, vachena, karmana, like in all aspects, one executes devotional service. With complete dedication, with complete immersion, one executes bhakti. When one understands Krishna is everything, when one understands that Krishna is the source of oneself, Krishna is the source of the entire universe, and because of Krishna, oneself is functioning and the entire universe is functioning, and the only thing left behind is to serve him. That is what happens. That's how Lord Krishna indicates in that verse. So that is the purpose of studying Shastra and following Shastra. So previously, time and again in the Bhagavatam, if you see, the sages of Naimisharanya are always inspiring Suta Goswami to speak more and more the glories of the Supreme Lord. Tatra kirtayato vipra viprasher buri tejasa aham chadyagamam tatra nivistastad anugrahat soham va shavayishyami yataditam yatamati. So here it is indicated. O learned Brahmanas, when Sukadeva Goswami recited Bhagavatam there in the presence of Emperor Parikshit, I heard him with rapt attention, and thus, by his mercy, I learned the Bhagavatam from that great and powerful sage. Now I shall try to make you hear the very same thing as I learned it from him and as I have realized it. This is a verse from 3rd chapter of the first canto of Bhagavatam. So wherein Suta Goswami already mentioned that I have heard this Bhagavatam, this wonderful scripture from the lotus mouth of Sukadeva Goswami. And whatever I have heard from him, whatever I have understood from him, I will narrate everything to you. So now the sages of Naimisharanya are requesting, please talk about Lord Kapila in detail. So now Suta Goswami is going to speak about Lord Kapila. Suta uvacha dvaipayana sakastevam maitreyo bhagavamstata prahedam viduram prita anvi shikyam prachodita.
Sri Suta Goswami said, the most powerful sage Maitreya was a friend of Vyasadeva. Being encouraged and pleased by Vidura's inquiry about transcendental knowledge, Maitreya spoke as follows.
So now Suta Goswami is telling that, just the way you asked me questions, Vidura also asked Maitreya. So Maitreya has spoken about Lord Kapila elaborately. I will repeat that like that. He's telling. Suta says, Maitreya, the friend of Vyasa. So both Krishna Dvaipayana Vyasa and Maitreya were the students in the school of Parashara. Parashara was the teacher for both Maitreya as well as Vyasa. Maitreya and Vyasa were born almost at the same time. So they were the co-students in the same school. They both of them studied under the father of Srila Vyasadeva, that was Parashara. So as we just mentioned in the previous last week Bhagavatam class, that that is also indicated in the 3rd canto of Bhagavatam in the chapter 8, that once understanding that his father was killed by or eaten up by a Rakshasa, so Parashara performs a great fire sacrifice. So in which Rakshasas are falling one after the other, one after the other. So the progenitor of the Rakshasas was Pulasya. Pulasya along with his brothers Pulaha, Kratu, Vasishta, I mean, they all come to the ashram of Vasishta, wherein Parashara was performing the sacrifice. And they requested Parashara, since one Rakshasa has killed your father, you should not terminate the entire race of Rakshasas. So kindly stop, my dear son. Like that they request. So when they requested, and by the consent of Vasishta, Parashara stopped it immediately. So at that time, Pulasya was very much pleased that the respect shown by Parashara toward the elderly people. And Pulasya became pleased and blessed him that, may you become expert at the narration of the Puranas. So that was the blessing offered to Parashara. And Parashara speaks the Bhagavatam in another way to Maitreya. So the conversation that took place between Parashara and Maitreya, that is recorded in the form of Vishnu Purana. Vishnu Purana is that Bhagavatam being discussed by Parashara unto Maitreya. And that Maitreya is kind of summarizing whatever he had heard from Parashara in the two cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam. That is Canto 3 and Canto 4, wherein Maitreya is speaking to Vidura upon being requested to know about all the subject matters. So that Maitreya, who is the friend of Vyasa, who studied along with Vyasa in the school of Parashara, pleased on being asked about the knowledge of Atma, just as you asked me. Then he spoke as follows to Vidura. Whatever questions you have asked me that you want to understand about that Sankhya Yoga spoken by Lord Kapila, which gives the understanding of Atma, which help the people to understand about Atma. So the same question is asked by Vidura unto Maitreya. And Maitreya elaborately explained the teachings of Lord Kapila. I will just repeat the conversation that took place between Maitreya and Vidura. So now Maitreya replies to a similar question by Vidura. So previously, Maitreya said, whenever Vidura asks a question, Maitreya would always glorify in order to increase the enthusiasm within the core of the heart of Vidura. He would always glorify the questions asked by Vidura. Of course, the questions are worthy of glorification, so he would always glorify. Sadhu prishtam tvaya sadhu lokan sadhanam anugrahat kirtim vitanvata loke atmano dokshajatmana. Maitreya said previously, O noble Vidura, you whose mind is absorbed in the Lord, adokshaja atmana, showing great mercy to the people, lokan sadhu anugrahat, spreading your own glory to the people, have asked excellent questions. If you remember, this was the question asked by Vidura in the 5th chapter. While discussing the 5th chapter, we were talking about Vidura elaborately. Vidura, in his true identity, he was Yamaraj. And Yamaraj is one of the 12 Mahajanas. And we hear now and time and again, Srila Prabhupada always quotes that Mahajano yena gatasya panta. The process of understanding Bhakti and Bhagavan is to follow in the footsteps of the great Mahajanas. So among the 12 great Mahajanas, Yamaraj is one person. So following in their footsteps means following their lifestyle, following their activities and following their instructions. But in the Bhagavatam, if you see, Yamaraj did not speak much. But Yamaraj, by becoming Vidura, by asking suitable questions, extracted the very essence of the Vedic literature from the mouth of Maitreya. So that makes him one of the 12 Mahajanas. So for what purpose he asked suitable questions and extracted the very essence of Vedic literature? Lokan sadhu anugrahat, in order to bring auspiciousness to the people of this world, in order to bring auspiciousness to the suffering conditioned souls of this world. So that was the purpose with which, instead of talking himself, Vidura actually took shelter of Maitreya and asked relevant questions unto him, and by which he extracted the important essence of all the Vedic literatures from the mouth of Maitreya. This makes Vidura, who in his original entity as Yamaraj, as a Mahajan. Why Vidura made these inquiries unto Maitreya Rishi? because Vidura knew the position of Maitreya. That is mentioned here. Janasya Krishna Dvimukasya Daivat Adharmashilasya Sudukkitasya Anugrahayeha Charanti Nonam Bhutani Bhavyani Janardanasya. Anugrahayena Charanti Nonam. So, for whom Anugraha? In order to give mercy to the suffering people engaged in sin, who are under the control of karma and ignorant of Krishna, the auspicious devotees of the Lord, like you, like your good self, my dear Maitreya, move in this world from place to place. Charanti Nonam. Basically, Janasya Krishna's Vimukasya Daivad, having turned their faces away from the Supreme Personality of God, Lord Krishna, or any one of his spiritual manifestation, any other Bhagavan forms, people have taken shelter of Adharma. They have become the practitioners or the followers of Adharma, because of which, under the control of the karma, they have become completely miserable. Su Dukkitasya. Dukkha means misery, Su Dukkitasya means completely miserable. In order to deliver them their perpetual miserable conditions, Anugraha Eha Charanti Nunam Bhutani Bhavyani Janardanasya. In order to deliver them from their current miserable condition and award them auspiciousness, the great souls like your good self constantly wander from place to place. So I have taken shelter of your lotus feet. Please help me understand about the process following which a conditioned soul can be delivered from the miserable condition. So this was the inquiry with which Vidura approached Maitreya. So Maitreya was always satisfied with the inquiries of Vidura and he always responded in a happy mood. So now Maitreya is responding. Maitreya Uvacha Pitari Prastiteranyam Matu Priya Chikirshaya Tasmin Bindusare Vastit Bhagavan Kapila Kila.
Maitreya said, when Kardama left for the forest, Lord Kapila stayed on the strand of the Bindu Sarovara to please his mother, Devahuti.
So what happened next? Maitreya is describing. When his father departed for the forest, Lord Kapila stayed at Bindu Sarovara in order to please his mother. So Lord Kapila departed from there, and if Kapila also departs, there is no one to take care of his mother. So he stayed at home along with Mother Devahuti in order to take care of her. Because almost like his father, Kardama Muni took sannyas, so he will never come back home again. So he stayed at home and took care of his mother. After Kardama left, Kapila Deva stayed at Bindu Sarovar to please his mother, to take care of his mother. So as he was taking care of his mother, one fine day, Mother Devahuti, remembering the words of Lord Brahma, previously Lord Brahma spoke that, my dear Putri, my dear Manavi, daughter of Manu, the Supreme Lord has entered into your womb and he will cut the knot of ignorance in your heart and eventually will travel all over the world and deliver people by talking about Sankhya Yoga and Bhakti Yoga. Tamasinam akarmanam tattva margagra darshanam swasutam devahutyaha dhatu samsaranti vacha. Dhatu samsmaranti vacha.
When Kapila, who could show her the ultimate goal of the absolute truth, was sitting leisurely before her, Devahuti remembered the words Brahma had spoken to her, and she therefore began to question Kapila as follows.
Yeah. Tamasinam akarmanam tattva margagra darshanam. So Lord Kapila, who can show the path of ending karmas and attaining perfection. So swasutam devutyaha dhatu samsmarati vacha. Remembering the words of Lord Brahma, Mother Devahuti approached Lord Kapila and spoke. Devahuti, remembering the words of Brahma, spoke to her son, who was seated beyond all actions and who could show the conclusions of the path of knowledge. Tattva marga agra darshanam. So whatever path of perfection people may follow, So Lord Kapila can show what is the ultimate end, what is the ultimate result one can obtain by following the path. He can describe the path, he can describe the goal. That is the glory of Lord Kapila. So that is what is indicated here. Devahuti starts to address Kapila Deva, remembering the words of Lord Brahma. So this was the verse where Lord Brahma tells that your son will remove the knot of ignorance from your heart and he will travel all over the world. O daughter of Manu, in order to uproot the karma by the methods of Jnana and Vijnana, Jnana refers to Nishkama Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga and Ashtanga Yoga, Vijnana refers to Bhakti Yoga. With golden hair, there is a beautiful description about his bodily description. He had Hiranyakesha, golden hair, he had Padmaksha, lotus eyes, and his lotus feet marked with the lotus. Padma Mudra Padamboja. Lord Kapila's lotus feet are in having the insignia of lotus flower. This Lord, killer of the demon Kaitaba Ardhana, entering your womb, will travel over the world, cutting the knot of ignorance and false knowledge. He will cut the knot of ignorance and false knowledge within your heart, and he will also cut the ignorance and false knowledge within the hearts of all the conditioned souls. Avidya, Samshaya, Grantim, Chitva. Avidya Granthi and Samshaya Granthi. These are the two things. When these two are cut, a person becomes qualified to go back to Godhead. So Lord Krishna also tells in Bhagavad Gita many times, Samshayatma Vinashyati, Asamshayam Samagram Mam, Yata Gnasis Tatshunu. So without any doubt, hear me. Those people who are doubtless can understand me and can attain perfection. The doubtful person should never be taught this knowledge. Lord Krishna tells at the end of Bhagavad Gita also, he tells to Arjuna that, my dear Arjuna, do not never teach this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita to the doubtful minded people, only unto the faithful. And a person will always be in doubt when person is ignorant about what is what. So that's why Avidya Granthi, when it is removed, Samshaya Granthi is also removed. So in that way. So before starting verse number where Devahuti is going to ask questions, Hare Krishna, is it clear till now? Any queries?
Prabhuji, I have a question. Maybe not related, but when we say a doubtful person should not be taught, then why is ISKCON like a major preaching movement, right? So we teach even everybody. We don't consider whether he's doubtful or not.
We consider everyone as innocent and teach. And doubtful are those who can continuously make counter arguments. So when it comes to debates, we try to avoid those people. For innocent, we should preach. For doubtful, who are always trying to debate and countering and all such kind of people should be avoided. It's like that.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
If you remember, in Bhakti Rasam Sindhu, there is a discussion about three kind of qualified persons for Bhakti. Kanishtadhikari, Madhyamadhikari and Uttamadhikari. So Kanishtadhikari has little faith, fragile faith. He is only interested in worshipping the deity, etc. And Madhyamadhikari, he knows who is who and he deals with the people accordingly. Prema, Maitri, Krupa, Apeksha, Upeksha, Krupo, Upeksha. So he had, for the Supreme Lord, he had Prema. He loved the Supreme Lord, he worshipped the Supreme Lord with love and devotion. Maitri, with other devotees, he develops friendship and deals with them in a friendly manner. And Prema, Maitri, Krupa, for the innocent, he shows compassion, he shows Krupa, he goes to them and preaches them, gives prasadam, distributes books, etc. And Upeksha, and to the envious, he will ignore them. He does not waste time debating with those people. So that is how we actually respond in ISKCON. So,
okay, thank you. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, anyone else? Till now, any query?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I have one query from last time's presentation. If you allow, now I can ask or later on?
Yeah, please go ahead now only. Afterwards, again, we'll enter into the topic.
Prabhuji, the first steps like smartha, what we say, or those who are karma kandis, and those who are sakama karmis. So what is the difference between the two level? Because karma kandis also do with some intentions, with some desire to get something, they perform some devotional activities. And sakama karmis also do in a similar manner. With the apeksha of karma, they do some.
No, there is no difference between karma kandi and sakama karmi. Both are same only. They are simply synonyms to each other.
But in yoga ladder also we make the different steps, no? Karma kanda and then sakam karma, nishkam karma.
Actually, I also try to understand the distinction between sakama karma, karma kandi, nishkama karma. Like I spoke to many devotees here in the ashram and many senior devotees, and after reading commentaries on Bhagavad Gita by Sri Vishnu Baladev Devabhushan, etc. So one simple understanding, as I think I have mentioned in the previous class also, the Vedas talks about sadhana. So what to practice, how to practice, where to practice, when to practice, and what we will get. So the Vedas are divided into three sections: Karma Kanda, Jnana Kanda, and Upasana Kanda. For the people in general in this material world, those who are following the Varnashram system, so they have three processes to follow: Karma Kanda section of the Vedas, Jnana Kanda section of the Vedas, and Upasana Kanda section of the Vedas. So Karma Kanda section of the Vedas teaches Sakama Karma and Nishkama Karma. So Karma Kanda is basically a section in the Vedas, just like Ramayana, we have Balakanda, Ayodhya Kanda, Aranya Kanda, Kishkinda Kanda, Sundara Kanda, Yuddha Kanda, and then Uttara Kanda. Kanda means a division. So in the Vedas, one section of the Vedas talk about karma. What kind of karma? Either it could be Sakama Karma and Nishkama Karma. The purpose of Sakama Karma is to get the benefits immediately now in this very lifetime here, and after death to go to Pitraloka or Sargaloka and enjoy more lavishly there. That is the goal of Sakama Karma. And the Nishkama Karma is in order to purify one's heart of all such kind of material desires, that to enjoy here, to get opulences here, or to enjoy after going to Pitraloka or Sargaloka, to become freed of all the material desires. The same Karma Kanda ritual, the same rituals which are mentioned in the Karma Kanda section of the Vedas are being followed, but with the intention to purify the heart. So that process is called Nishkama Karma Yoga. With the intention of purifying the heart, and then they eventually become qualified to practice Jnana Yoga. They take to renunciation either Vanaprastha or Sannyasa. There they practice Jnana Yoga, and eventually, as we discussed last week, having reached the platform of Brahma Bhuta platform, Jivan Mukta platform, they give up the process of Jnana and they practice Bhakti, whatever they practice till now in little way. By practicing that Bhakti, they will understand and they will realize about Brahman, and then they enter into Sayujya in order to experience unlimited happiness, Brahmananda. So that is how the people in general practice these processes. So in a way, Karma Kanda is nothing but Sakama Karma in general. There is no distinction between those two.
Okay, thank you, Prabhu.
It is only the terminology of different scriptures. Puranas call it as Sakama Karma, Vedas call this as Karma Kanda. That's the only difference.
Okay, thank you, Prabhu.
Okay, so we will go ahead with the verse number 7 onwards. Verse number 7 to 11, Mother Devoti inquires about the path of perfection. Devahutir uvacha nirvinna nitarambuman asad indriya trishnatat nirvinna nitarambuman asad indriya trishna tarshanat yena sambhavyamanena Prapannandam Tamaprabho.
Devavati said, I am very sick of the disturbances caused by my material senses. For because of these sense disturbances, my Lord, I have fallen into the abyss of ignorance.
So, like this, she starts building up her concern towards herself, her own perfection. So, initially, she says that Nirvinna nitaram bhuman asat indriya trishnatat yena sambhavya manena prapannandam tama prabhu. O Lord, Prabhu, I am disgusted with the desire for material objects, by which, continuing till this time, I have attained this dark material existence, O my Lord. So basically, she is telling that previously my husband was ready to give me all the spiritual perfection, but that time I desired children. I wanted to be with my husband in a normal way. So as a result of which, my husband already left home, but I am still remaining here without receiving any spiritual understanding, spiritual knowledge and realizations. So I consider, because I have been attached to Asad Indriya Trishnatat, I have developed interest in Asad Indriya Trishna, the desire for sense objects, have remained here in the Prapannandam Tama Prabhu. So I am remained in the darkness of the material existence. So kindly deliver me. So like that, she is slowly building up her case. Slowly, verse by verse, she kind of develops. So she says that I am disgusted with the desire for material objects, because of which I have attained this dark material existence. So this was the first point that she makes. And then she continues. So this word Nirvinna, so this word has a special significance in the 11th canto of Bhagavatam, wherein in Uddhav Gita, Lord Krishna talks about what is the qualification for a person to practice karma or jnana or bhakti. So Nirvinna and Trishna, these two words actually define the qualification of a person, what kind of process they can practice. So here, this verse says that Yadruchaya mat katado jata shaddostu yapuman na nirvinno nati sakto bhakti yogo se siddhida. So this verse talks about the qualification to practice bhakti, the path of bhakti. Yadruchaya mat katado, somehow or other by good fortune, if one develops the faith on my Krishna Katha, if one develops a desire to hear about my birth and activities which are transcendental in nature, Jata Shraddhostu Yapuman, whoever had developed a little faith on this subject matter of my birth and activities. This is first qualification in order to become Bhakta. And the second qualification is Na Nirvinno. And that person should not be too much detached from this material world. Nirvinna means disgusted. That person should not be too much disgusted from this material world. At the same time, na ati asakto. That person should not be too much attached to the facilities offered by this material world. And that kind of person is qualified to practice bhakti and attain perfection in the path of bhakti. Bhakti yogosya siddhida. So this verse defines the qualification of a person who can practice bhakti. And if somebody is too much nirvinna, too much disgusted from this material world, he is not at all want to stay in this material world anymore, that person is qualified to practice jnana or yoga. The qualification to practice jnana is too much disgust from this material world. They should understand this material world is a place of misery and I don't want to stay here anymore. Quickly, I have nothing to do with this material world and this material world is completely made up of Maya, it's putting me in a illusion. That kind of disinterest in this material world, if it is shown by a person, that person is qualified for jnana. And if a person has too much attachment to this material world, thinking that this material world is meant for my enjoyment, that kind of person is qualified to practice karma. He is called as na atisakto, ati asakto. Those who have too much attachment to this material world and the facilities offered by this material world, they are qualified to practice karma. So this is the distinction which is indicated in Srimad Bhagavatam 11th canto. Who is qualified for what? Atisakto karma, atinirvinna jnana, na atisakto na atinirvinna bhakti. One who is in the middle. He is not too much attached to enjoy the facilities of this world, but they use all the facilities of this world in the service of the Supreme Lord. And is not too much detached to touch anything of this matter. Instead, he knows that everything in this material world is not meant for my enjoyment, but is meant for all Lord's enjoyment. They use everything in the service of the Supreme Lord. So in that way. So Nirvinna means they don't use anything of the material world. Achsakta means they use everything in this material world for one's own enjoyment, but devotees use everything in this material world for the service of the Supreme Lord. They neither give up nor accept it for their own self. So this is how these three people are distinguished through the words of Lord Krishna. This we can understand in the 11th canto of Bhagavatam. So now Mother Devahuti continues further. She is building up her case. Tasyatvam tamasondasya dushparasya paragam satchakshur janmanam ante labdam me tvad anugrahat.
Your Lordship is my only means of getting out of this darkest region of ignorance, because you are my mercy only I have attained after many, many births.
Tasyatvam tamaso andasya dushparasadya paragam. So this tamaso andasya, andatamas, the entire the deep dark well of the material existence is dushpara asadya paragam. It is very difficult to cross across. It is very difficult to go beyond this deep dark well of material existence, because the problem is it is anda. It is deep dark well. So we cannot see. So we cannot go to the other side. When we can't see, we cannot go ahead. But my dear Lord, you appeared like Sat Chakshur Janmanam Ante. Somehow or other, after many lifetimes, now today I have approached you, the light who can show the path across the ocean of material existence. The path who can show light in order to go across the deep dark well of the material existence. Labdam me tvad anugrahat. By your causeless mercy, somehow or other, I have obtained you today. So you are the light who can show the light in the darkness of material existence, so that we can cross and go beyond this material existence. So in that way. So today, by your mercy, after many births, I have attained you a spiritual eye, Sat Chakshu, to let me cross over the darkness, which is so difficult to cross. After many births, today I have attained you so that I can cross this material ocean. So this is the second point which Mother Devahuti says that. So because of my attraction towards sense objects, I have been bound in this material existence, and that existence is deep dark well. I can't see how to go ahead further, where to go ahead further. But today you appeared like a light, a spiritual eye which can see all the way across the deep dark well, so that I can go onto the other side. In the next verse, she builds up her case further. Yadyo Bhagavan Pumsham Ishvaro Vai Bhagavan Kila Lokasya Tamasandasya Chakshu Surya Ivodita.
You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the origin of Supreme Lord of all living entities. You have arisen to disseminate the rays of the sun in order to dissipate the darkness of the ignorance of the universe.
So here she says that Chakshu Surya Iva Udita. So we, being bound in this Tamasandasya, deep dark well, we don't know where to go and how to go. But today, by your causeless mercy, you appeared as a sun. So under sunlight, one can see everything clearly. One can go ahead anywhere they want, anywhere one wants. So like that, she is telling, you, my dear Lord, who are the virtual Supreme Lord, controller of all beings, the eye for the persons blinded by darkness have risen like the sun. We have eyes, but in this darkness, there is no use of those eyes. All the eyes are being blinded by the darkness. But by your appearance like a sun, our eyes can see now. So by seeing through our eyes, we can cross this deep dark well, Tamasandasya. So in that way, you have arisen like the sun to deliver persons blinded by darkness of the deep dark well. So thus she further builds up her case. Then she further says, Atame deva sammoham apakrashtum tvamarhasi yo agroham mametiti cheshtrita etasmin yojitastvaya.
Now be
Now
pleased.
be pleased.
Now be pleased, my Lord, to dispel my great delusion. Due to my feeling of false ego, I have been engaged by your Maya and have identified myself with the body and consequent bodily relations.
Yeah. Now she further says that Atame deva sammoham apakrishtam tamarhasi yo avagraho aham mama iti etasmin yojita swaya. My dear Lord, I have been illusioned by Maya. Deva sammoham. I have been illusioned by Maya. What is this Maya? Etasmin yojita swaya. This Maya is your own energy. Because of your own energy, I have been illusioned. I have become attached to material sense objects, asat indriya trishnatas, because of which I have been bound by the deep dark well of material existence. Andat tamasandasya. So apakrashtum tamarhasi. So because it is your Maya has made me bound in this material world, and it is your duty to deliver me. She says that not somebody else has put me under bondage. It is your Maya has put me under illusion, and it is your responsibility to deliver me from this illusory condition. What is the result of that illusory condition? That illusory condition makes me think about me and mine, aham mameti, in this material world. Oh Lord, now you should dispel this illusion, which is an obstacle to bhakti, having misconceptions such as I and mine for the body and house. I think this body to be I and the house to be mine, produced by your energy. Etasmin yojitastvaya. Please dispel this illusion of mine, because Maya belongs to you. I have said that you have produced this misconception, and now it is your duty to dispel this Maya, deliver me from this Maya. And the Lord Kapila might say that, how can you say that? How, it is you have come under shelter of Maya. So you work hard to deliver yourself from Maya. Like that, Lord Kapila might say. So before Lord Kapila could say anything, Mother Devahuti finally tells the final thing. Why Lord Kapila should deliver her. This is the final statement that Mother Devahuti states. Tamtva gataham sharanam sharanyam saburtya samsarataro kutaram jignasayaham prakrite purushasya namami saddharma vidam varishtam.
Devahuti
I have taken
continued. I have taken shelter of your lotus feet because you are the only person of whom to take shelter. You are the axe which can cut the tree of material existence. I therefore offer my obeisance unto you, who are the greatest of all transcendentalists, and I inquire from you as to the relationship between man and woman and between spirit and matter.
So here in this verse, she kind of states many statements. She inspires Lord Kapila. She actually makes sure that Lord Kapila should respond. She puts Lord Kapila in checkmate condition, something like that. So in the previous verse, she told that it is your Maya has put me under illusion. It is your responsibility to deliver me from your Maya's illusion. And now, how could Lord can do that? That she also tells in this verse. Tamtva gataham sharanam sharanyam. Now I have taken shelter of your lotus feet. You are worthy of giving shelter to conditioned living entities. So you are Sharanyam. I have taken shelter of your lotus feet. Now it is your responsibility to deliver me. This is first thing. Why you should deliver me? Swabrutya samsara taro kutaram. Kutaram means axe. Taro means tree. What kind of tree? Samsara taro. The tree of material existence, the tree of samsara. You are the axe to cut the tree of the material existence for Swabrutya, your surrendered souls. You are glorified as the one who delivers your surrendered souls. So if you remember Bhagavad Gita chapter 7 verse number 14, 13 or 14. What was the verse? About Maya and Lord Krishna's delivering us from Maya.
Devi Hesha Gunamayi Mama Maya Duratya.
Further.
Mameva ye prapadyante Maya metam taranti.
There Lord Krishna himself said that Devi Hesha Gunamayi Mama Maya Duratya. So my Maya, my material energy is composed of three modes of material nature. Is very difficult to cross behind. But what is the solution? Those who take shelter of my lotus feet can very easily be delivered from the influence of Maya. So same thing here, Mother Devata says that Swabrutya Samsara Taro Kutaram. You are the axe to cut the tree of the material existence for your surrendered souls. Jijnasayaham Prakrute Purushasya Namami Saddharma Vidam Varishtam. Saddharma Vidam Varishtam. Saddharma Vidam. Those people who know and who teach about the bona fide path back to Godhead. Among all such teachers, you are Varishta. You are the best among all the teachers who can teach the best process of back to Godhead. So because of all these reasons, and also with an intention to understand Jijnasayaham Prakrite Purushasya, I want to understand about Prakriti, which causes the material existence. And also I want to understand about the Purusha, who is actually out of material desire, is bound in this material world. Purusha means Pura Tishtati iti Purusha. Those who stay in the Navadvara Pure Dehi, the body of 9 gates, and tries to enjoy being situated there. That kind of personality is called Purusha. So the Jiva, having entered into the human body, being staying there, tries to enjoy the sense objects with the help of the 5 senses, 5 Jnanendriyas and mind. That's why the living entity is called as Purusha. Pura Tishtati iti Purusha. And Prakriti is Prakrushta Rupena Krityati iti Prakriti. So in a specific way, she performs everything the way it is happening. That's why she is called as Prakriti. Prakrushta Rupena Krityati iti Prakriti. So as we also read in the Bhagavad Gita, I think 3rd chapter, Prakrite Kriyamanani Gunai Karmani Sarvasha Ahankara Vimudatma Kartaham iti Mannate. A person out of false ego, out of Ahankara says that I am the doer of every action. But actually in reality, every activity is done by Prakriti. Prakrite Karmani Gunai Karmani Sarvasha. As we read in the 3rd canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is from Prakriti, it is from Pradhana. The 24 elements are formed. And by the combination of all the 24 elements, our material body is formed. And whatever activity we perform, it is performed by various body limbs. Atma is a non-doer. Atma does not do anything. Atma only desires happiness. Anandamayo Abhyasat. In order to facilitate that happiness, the gross body and subtle body endeavors in a different ways, in many different ways, in order to give happiness to the joy seeker, the soul. So in reality, all the activities are done by the body, which is nothing but Prakriti. So in that way. So she wanted to understand about Prakriti and Jiva, the matter and spirit. With that idea, she is asking and surrendering unto Lord Kapila. Surrendering unto you, the axe to cut the tree of material existence for your devotees, I offer respects to you, the best among the knowers of Bhakti. Saddharma means Bhakti here. With a desire to know about the Jiva in the material world and Prakriti that causes material existence. The Jiva, Purusha means the Jiva who is situated in the material world, and also about the Prakriti which causes material existence for the Jiva. I surrender to you and no one else with a desire to know about Jiva and Prakriti from which the material existence arises. You are the best among the knowers of the process to destroy samsara. What is the best process that can destroy samsara very quickly and very easily? That is the process of Bhakti Yoga. Saddharma Vidam Varishtam. So having stated all these attributes and qualities and activities of the Supreme Lord Kapila, Mother Devahuti surrendered unto him with a desire to understand about Prakriti and Purusha, by whose combination the material existence arises.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Mataji.
Prabhuji, when you explained that Pura Tishtati iti Purusha, that is why the Jivas are termed as Purusha. But we also say that a Supreme Lord is the only Purusha. So that Purusha, in what context, like what is the meaning of that Purusha?
Another meaning of Purusha is also the enjoyer. Pura Tishtati iti Purusha. The Jiva stays in the nine-gated body only for the purpose of enjoying, like Ananda Mayo Abhyasat. But actually, who is the real enjoyer? Not the Jiva, but the Supreme Lord. That's why the Supreme Lord is called actual Purusha. Having situated in one's own body, the one who really enjoys is actually Purusha. So we in a conditioned state tries to enjoy, but actually the one who is enjoying is Purusha, Mahapurusha. The first Purusha, second Purusha, third Purusha, like Karnadoksha Vishnu, Garbhodaksha Vishnu, Chirodaksha Vishnu, they are called Purushas. They are called Purusha avatars in that sense.
Okay, thank you, Pramila.
So these are the questions asked unto Kardama Muni while he was about to leave from home. Devahuti was asking him in the 23rd chapter. Saham Bhagavato Nunam Vanchita Maya Adrudam Yatvam Vimuktidam Prapya Namumuksheya Bandhanat. Wherein she said that I have surely been solidly cheated by the illusory energy of the Lord, because having attained you, my dear husband, you can give liberation. I did not desire liberation from bondage. Instead, I asked you to get children in me. So that she was remembering when Kardama was about to leave from home. Similarly, it is also mentioned in the 10th chapter of the second canto, like Ittam bhavena kadito Bhagavan Bhagavattama Netam bhavena hi param drashtum haranti suraya. The great transcendentalists thus describe the activities of Supreme Personality of Godhead, but the pure devotees deserve to see more glorious things in transcendence beyond these features. Generally, the yogis and jnanis tries to understand about Brahman and Paramatma features of the Supreme Lord, but only devotees want to understand about the activities and qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagavan. So that is what is indicated. The devotees are always eager to know about the Supreme Lord. And the jnanis and yogis are eager to understand about this material world and the universal form, etc. etc. So here, apparently, the questions asked by Mother Devahuti are about Purusha and Prakriti. They seems to be the questions of jnanis and yogis. But ultimately, the import is to get the shelter of the Lotus of the Supreme Lord. So that is the desire of the devotees.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes, Mataji.
Prabhuji, actually Kardama Muni wanted to create progeny because it was the order of Brahmaji, isn't it?
Yes.
So then he required Devahuti, he wanted to get married. Through Devahuti, he wanted to have progeny so that the thing could increase, population could increase.
Yes.
So then it is not her fault that she was caught up in the illusionary energy, no?
But out of humility, she is saying that I am caught up in humility. But in one sense, when he was ready to offer all the spiritual benedictions, she did not ask them. She said that she thought that, so now let me fulfill the promise that he promised me that he will beget children through me. Then afterwards, I will ask for spiritual benedictions. But the promise given by Kardama Muni was, as soon as I beget children, I will go to forest. So that was the events that were taking place at that time.
Okay.
So it was like that. So now Maitreya tells that Lord Kapila is going to answer to Mother Devahuti. Maitreya uvacha iti swamatur niravadya mepsitam nishamya pumsham apavarga vardhanam dhiya binandyatmavatam satam gatir babasha isa smita shobitana.
Maitreya said, after hearing of his mother's uncontaminated desire for transcendental realization, the Lord thanked her within himself for her question, and thus, his face smiling, he explained the path of the transcendentalists who are interested in self-realization.
So having heard the words of Mother Devahuti, Lord Kapila slightly smiled, expressing a word that, my dear mother, what you are saying? You are telling that you are in Maya? You are actually my mother. So how can someone can become the mother of the Supreme Lord if they are situated in Maya? That is not possible. You are already transcended the influence of Maya, but still you are asking. No problem. Making you as an instrument, I will teach Sankhya and Bhakti for the people of this world. So like that, Lord Kapila is responding now. So Maitreya is saying that hearing his mother's faultless desire for increasing liberation of humanity, Pumsham Apavarga Vardhanam. So Mother Devahuti is asking, her words are saying that she is asking for her own liberation. But Lord Kapila said that, mother, my dear mother, you are already liberated by just by becoming my mother, you are already liberated. There is no point that you are an illusion. But your questions are compassionate that the answers to your question will deliver the people of this world. So in that way. So thanking her by his intelligence, with a slight smile on his shining face, Lord Kapila spoke about the path of the devotees who accept Lord Kapila as the Lord. Atmavatam Satam Gatim. Satam, the devotees who consider the Supreme Lord as their own self. So what is their path? What is their destiny? These two things are described by Lord Kapila. Accepting Mother Devahuti as an instrument for the benefit of the people of this world. So in that way. Lord Kapila starts to reply, hearing his mother's faultless desire. Lord Kapila slightly smiled. Smita, you are my dear, you are my mother. How can you be in Maya? Anyway, I will teach something to deliver the common people through teaching you. So that is how Lord Kapila starts his discussion. Accepting his mother as an instrument, Lord Kapila continues to talk about Sankhya Yoga and Bhakti Yoga. Any queries till now? Hare Krishna, any queries? Okay. So before starting the answers given by Lord Kapila, we'll take 5 minutes break and then we'll continue. Sorry. It is R, no, it is not R, but any process one can practice and they can get the same realization.
No, if it and means you have to do this also, you have to do this also, you have to do this also. All three are.
No, not like that. Not like that. So one can do Jnana Yoga or one can do Ashtanga Yoga, one can do Bhakti Yoga, like that. Here and means another process. So I put the translation as it is. Thank you for pointing that. Endowed with Jnana and Vairagya and principally with Bhakti. Because some people practice all the three. Those who practice Jnana, we see in the future chapters, at a certain point of time, they take shelter of yoga in order to get rid of this world very quickly. And eventually, having given up that yoga, they take shelter of Bhakti and attain perfection. As we discussed last week, that the 55th verse of the 18th chapter, Bhaktyamam abhijanati yavanyaschasmi tatvata tato mam jatnato jnatva vishate tadantaram. Having given up that jnana, which is in the mode of goodness, having given up that yoga, which is in the mode of goodness, having entered into Turiya state, they practice Bhakti, the leftover Bhakti, with which they will get the understanding of Tattvam, Adi Tat Brahman or Bhagavan, Mam, and then they enter into Brahman or Vaikuntha. So that is there. In one sense, they have to practice all the three. So that is also okay. So this is how one understands all these things. One gets all these qualities, one develops all these qualities in that Jivan Mukta platform. They become free from lust and greed, they become free from grief, they become peaceful, and they can see themselves without any coverings. And how does the mind reach the state? Primarily by bhakti, but also by jnana and yoga. So it's like that.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Mataji.
Prabhuji, in the purport of text 18, at the last line, it says that similarly it is confirmed in the Narad Pancharatra that when the senses are purified, they then can be engaged in the devotional service of the Lord. And one who is attached to the material contamination cannot be a devotee. So here essentially it is saying that when the senses get purified, one can engage in the devotional service. But means like my understanding was that by engaging in the devotional service, only senses start getting purified and they will maybe reach ultimate state of purification. So if this way we see, how can we understand this?
So bhakti has two portions, sadhana bhakti and prema bhakti. So even with contaminated senses, we can execute sadhana bhakti, but only with purified senses, we can execute bhava bhakti or prema bhakti. So here the bhakti is indicated here is the prema bhakti platform. So in that way.
Yeah, thank you.
The mind becomes free of the contaminations by sama and dhamma, which are the different angas of jnana, and by the practice of yama and niyama, which are the different angas of yoga. So these are the angas of jnana and angas of ashtanga yoga. What are the effects of purification? Being without sorrow, being without happiness, and completely peaceful. At that time, the jiva sees himself separate from ignorance. Prakriti